Dime ve mi gente, mis corazonzones. I'm going to tap into my journalist hat real quick. Vamos para allá. There's so much going on in the world right now. Trump is the president, unfortunately. Todo el mundo está ansiosa. And it seems like every single day he's removing some policy or tocando otra cosa. It's all very nerve-wracking. As a trusted storyteller, I've never been met with so many DMs in my life, bro. Gata, why did he win? ¿Cómo llegamos aquí? What do we do now? And it's a bit heartbreaking to receive such a massive influx of messages with so much anxiety. Y esto me hace recordar de la transición en el periodismo hace 2 años. That transition that happened in media like 2 years ago. Because 2 years ago, hace 2 años, Elon Musk, él compró X, he bought Twitter. And everything changed. Let's be for real. To a lot of people, it was like, oh, that's what rich people do. They buy things. But for me, speaking for myself, hablando por mí, part of the journalism world, I saw everything in what felt like 8K. I'll never forget. The first thing he did was remove the check marks, the verification marks from journalists. And that should have been a first major red flag to people in la sociedad. But it wasn't. Porque ahora todo el mundo se cree comunicadora social. When it's like, no. La gente no le diera mucha mente, pero any attempts to discredit journalists or knock us down a peg is a dangerous position. But people weren't thinking about that. The truth is, these past 5 years have proven to everybody that empathy often starts and ends when it affects you personally. Vamos a ser sincera, decir las cosas como son, okay? Gata, por favor, regresa al tema del reggaeton. Where are you going with this? Bueno, mi corazonzones, you'll hear me say it a million times. Reggaeton was born out of the need of raising your voice. Today, it's largely recognized as party music, but the real no. Today's guest, Julyssa Lopez, is an award-winning journalist, colleague, and very good friend of mine, who so happens to be the Latin music editor of Rollingtone. She's produced culture-shifting work, stories that force us to think, pause, question, and I can't wait to get into how she deciphers what gets put into press and what gets sidelined. The códigos that matter, especially considering the world of today. Y un código más tarde con Floyymenor. Vamos para allá. This is Reggaeton Con La Gata. I want to talk about the cheat codes of success.
Yeah.
We're both women in the Latin music industry space.
Battling through the space.
Raising our swords wherever we can and carving out space for ourselves and you know, being celebrated at the same time in real time, which is epic. First off, what does that mean to you, that alone?
I think being a woman in this space, I think, is always a challenge. I think because there's so few of us, it always feels like an uphill battle. But I also find like a lot of comfort in the fact that like, I think that we as women are always, not always, but very often supportive of each other. And like I found community with so many women like you and like so many different people who I feel like I've been able to connect with because we have this similar experience of understanding what it's like to navigate this industry as a woman and as a Latina. So it's like this double-edged sword, right? On the one hand, I think it can be really hard and really challenging, but on the other hand, I think there's like a camaraderie and like a sisterhood that forms a lot of time that I feel really happy about.
Absolutely. So I am a historian, if you didn't know. And in which case, my passion, of course, is storytelling, you know, the history of reggaeton through this intersectional lens, yada yada. And in which case, I, of course, have a profound respect for journalism. I often don't take that title, like, we all know when I write something, someone's in trouble. But sometimes it's either we're in trouble or we're celebrating, right? One or the other. But in which case, I assume the title of critic. And where I'm going with this is I heavily respect journalistic ethic and standard. Can you talk to me about that? Because that must be hard.
Definitely.
Being, you know, overseeing what the landscape and the formatting of a story may be, especially if it'll ruffle feathers, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. I think I've been lucky that I've been doing this long enough that I've sort of learned over the years how to navigate those stories. And to me, the best stories are the ones that are honest and include a lot of perspectives and where you understand that even though some feathers are going to get ruffled, there's things that you have to say because it's the ethical thing to do. And I think the more that I do this, the more I kind of understand why we're doing the things that we're doing and why, you know, as a journalist that you have to ask really hard questions, because at the end of the day, when you're a journalist, I think some people get in this industry and they think like it's going to be fun, which it can be, but to me that's not really what we're here for. I think that oftentimes journalists are the ones that are in the room with some of the most powerful music executives, some of the most, you know, famous artists, and if you have the privilege of getting to be in the room with those people, you should also take it upon yourself to ask really difficult questions that other people have. And so I think sometimes there's a little bit of a misconception, especially when we do profiles or cover stories. I think artists have it in their head that it's going to be like their biography or it's going to be like their story. And that's not really it. To me, what we're doing in a lot of those cases, it's a record of who this person is and why they were important during that time and what their career and what their artistry was reflecting about the culture more broadly. And if there are things that are uncomfortable about what that artist is, you know, representing or the way that people, you know, took their artistry, I think it's important just to say it, because at the end of the day, the story is going to remain. It's going to be a record. And if it's not honest and it's just kind of a biography or something that's very one-sided, then I think we haven't done our job as journalists.
Very well said. You know, honestly, thank you. Because a lot of people don't get it. And in which case, you know, also what you were alluding to as well is how this all impacts culture, right?
Yeah.
We mentioned fun versus, you know, responsibility, and I'm excited to see ways in which those two things can merge, but also we shouldn't get lost in the sauce.
Definitely. And I think a lot of these things, right, like, we enjoy talking about music. We enjoy when, I don't know, something goes viral and the memes that come out of it. And I think all of that is great, but I think we should also keep in mind that, you know, music is one of the most powerful representations of culture that there is, and it means so much to so many people, and it means different things to so many people. It's something that like represents like roots and traditions and history, so you have to treat that with respect. Like, it can't, I think there's plenty of room for the fun side of it, but I think you also have to bring that respect and historical context, which I think is something that you always do such a beautiful job of.
Thank you.
And try to make sure that there is a lot of room and reverence for that as well, because that's also why we're here.
I would love to know if you can tell me a story, and feel free to tell it however, you know, you'd like, of how someone put you on. Because we all needed help to get to where we're at, and I would love to know a story.
Definitely. My story, I think, especially in journalism, has been a little non-traditional. You know, I think for a long time, journalism, I think because I didn't know any journalists growing up. Like, there's nobody in my family that was a journalist. It seemed like and I think it still is, a job and a profession with such elite connotations. Like, everybody that I knew that was a journalist, like, their family was like wealthy and white, and I didn't understand how to break in. So it was almost a dream that I was like too scared to dream sometimes. I was like, I don't think it's gonna happen for me. So for a long time I did other things. Like, I had internships in journalism, but then when I started working, I did, you know, I went down like a sort of marketing route for a little bit and did other stuff. But I was always freelancing on the side. And that was like still me holding on to the dream of like, I still really want to be a journalist. Like, you know, if I can still write and like do my little clips like at night, you know, after my 9 to 5, then I think I can make this happen. And so I think one thing that really changed a lot was because I was like working on these stories and like pitching different places. Eventually I kind of built a few, you know, portfolio. And one of the first people that gave me a chance was this music critic who I love a lot and have so much respect to. His name is Chris Richards at the Washington Post. And he was kind of like, he just kind of reached out to me one day and was like, you seem like you know what you're doing. Like, do you want to try writing for the Washington Post? And I was terrified. It was my first time writing.
What a question.
Right? It was my first time writing on spec, which is basically when you write something and you just send it in and they either run it or they don't. And like, you either get paid or you don't. I'd never done that before. I reviewed Carnage. His name is now Gordo. He's like a big DJ who's like now working with like Drake and stuff. I reviewed one of his shows and I sent it in and I was like, I feel like there's no way that they're ever gonna take it, but like, let's see what happens. And then the next day it was in the newspaper. It was in the Washington Post, which is like my hometown newspaper. And just because this guy was like, you seem good, like just go for it and try. So I always have a lot of love for him. But then I think too, like, there have been so many women for me too that like, I feel like have shown a pathway or supported me. I mean, one of them is Isabella Herrera, who was at Remezcla for years, which I wrote for Remezcla for many, many years, and still think of her as like one of the big editors that helped me. There's Susie Exposito, who was at Rollingtone before me, and I feel like Susie built such an amazing foundation at Rollingtone for me to now be able to do what I'm doing. And I try to give Susie her flowers whenever I can, because I think the work that she did with like not as many resources was amazing, and like, you know, opened the pathway for all these things that we see happening. So I feel like there's so many examples and so many people that I'm grateful for, just for, you know, putting me on and helping me out and helping me get to where I am now.
Are you tearing up, Boo?
No!
I see that glimpse in there. No, not all of us crying here in these streets. No, I love that. And yes, Isabella and Susie, we love you. Such badass women. Shout out to my tatanas. You know, it's incredible. And in which case, what is an example of you putting yourself on?
That's a good question. I still feel like I'm working on that. Like, I feel like I'm a little bit more of a shy, reserved person. I try to like let the work speak for itself. I think for me, my journey in this industry and my path has kind of just been being confident about the work, and I think at Rollingtone being more aggressive about what I pitch and like stories that I believe in. So I have like a less concrete answer for that, but I think it's just been like kind of an ongoing work of like pitching the things that I really want to write about, going after them aggressively and trying to make those stories happen.
I disagree. I wouldn't say that it's not a concrete. I say that's concrete as hell, because your compass is determined by, you know, your path, which is valid. And in which case, you know what stories need to be told. If anyone, it's you.
Thank you.
So I'm excited for that.
Thanks.
I actually love that so much. And how do you like to put on for others?
I think right now, you know, I started as a writer at Rollingtone, and I feel like I had more of a backseat role and kind of like, I was mostly focusing on my writing, but trying to figure out, you know, if there was things that I saw that coming up, like suggesting somebody and being like, I think this person would be good for that. I think this is an area that we're missing. Now as an editor, I have, you know, a much wider expanse and much more room to do that. So for me, it's about getting younger writers. It's about getting writers who are writing about things that we're not covering at Rollingtone, and trying to make sure that we're recognizing, you know, I think especially, you know, Latin music is one of the things that I cover. It's one of the things that I focus on the most heavily. And I think especially in this space, as we know, it's such a varied, diverse scene. And so trying to make sure that there's as many voices as possible, it's necessary. And it's, I think, what good coverage looks like.
Wepa, Julyssa is spitting. I do not want to pause, but we have some commercials, mi gente. We'll be right back with Julyssa after these messages. Highlight an aspect of the industry that you think works well.
I think that we're in a moment right now in this industry where there is so much talent. I think a lot of people's minds are opening up, especially to younger talent. You know, when I look back and I do like a lot of sort of try to find like, you know, as much research as I can about the industry back in the day, it felt like it was so run by those kind of traditional big pop artists. And so it just make me feel good to see that the doors are opening, maybe not as quickly as they could be, but more and more that we're seeing more coverage of just like different types of music, and that the idea of what Latin music is really changing. So that's something I feel like is working well, just like the fact that there's like rising talent that is figuring out how to get attention and how to be seen and kind of demanding it for themselves. And that makes me really, really excited and really proud.
I love that you said that, because especially in regards to reggaeton, in regards to Latinidad and how it functions, we love to put everything in one umbrella. And we love to pigeonhole ourselves, and why I don't understand, just slight commentary, because it's like reggaeton is so versatile. I can speak about any other genre, but estamos Reggaeton Con La Gata. Reggaeton is so versatile. There are so many different types that's going on in like the early 2000s, and as we all know, coverage during that time wasn't the greatest, right?
Yeah.
We have pioneering badass writers like Jesus Triviño.
Shout out Jesus.
Shout out to Jesus. You know, badass journalists who are able to see the magic of what was actually happening in the culture. And of course, the industry caught up later. So that makes me feel optimistic, because we need more lanes, you know, and we need to have the confidence that these lanes will thrive.
Yeah.
You know, because people don't like just one thing.
Exactly.
You know, we're so diverse.
Yeah. And I think you're seeing it too, even just with artists who like don't want to be pigeonholed and they want to do a lot of things, and they're showing how many avenues and how many pathways are possible. I'm here for that, and I think I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely. I've asked you what is an aspect of the industry that you think is working well. I have to ask you what is an aspect of the industry you think is not working well that needs major improvement.
Obviously, I think that there still needs to be much more conversations about diversity in Latin music and expanding it and not being shy to talk about, you know, the erasure of Black artists, not being defensive when somebody's pointing out the inequalities that exist in this industry. I think there's still a lot of growth that needs to happen. I also think, for me, I feel best in this industry and I feel best about my own work when I'm in a space that really is about the music. It is not about ego. It is not about sort of personal buy-in into things. I think that kind of all of us in this industry can, and I try to do this as much as possible, just like stop and reflect that the reason that I'm writing about things, the reason that I'm moved to keep doing this is because it's about the music, because I find the music important, because I find the music culturally valuable, because there's this like kind of inexplainable magic that happens when you hear a song, when you listen to something that makes people feel connected, that makes them feel, you know, when you're at home listening to something alone and the emotional connection you have to it. I think chasing after that and why that's important and why art is important and why we should be covering this, to me is always more important and more interesting than I think sometimes some of the ego that can get involved or some of the corporate interest.
I'm weak because your answer to both what's working well and what needs to be improved on, it's like it's all within the same.
Yeah.
It's like what's working is also is what we need to work on.
I think so, but yeah, but I think it's always gonna be like that, right? It's always gonna be like a little bit of a push and pull, and like I think progress, you know, it's a little bit of always like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like we can be excited that there's more artists and that there's, you know, things that are happening that are amazing, but we also need to be thinking about our steps forward as we navigate it and what we can continue to do better. So I don't know. At least that's how I think about it.
Absolutely. Julyssa, give me a código.
I think for me, what has worked, I think I talked about it a little bit about right now, is kind of bringing, at least, I'll speak specifically about journalism. I think that one thing that helps as a music journalist is to continue to be driven by your interest in the art form, your interest in the music, rather than other outside things. And to me, also, one of them was just like persistence, you know? I think I had like a less linear route in this industry, and I found that the only thing that, you know, got me to where I am, in addition to a lot of support, was to just be persistent and keep writing, even when I was like, I don't think anybody's reading this, like, I don't think anybody cares, like, I'm writing, you know, I'm getting like $80 for like a write-up that's taking me hours, like what, you know? And I think just like being persistent and kind of continuing on because you believe that it matters. Para mí fue un código that I think kind of brought me to where I am.
I appreciate it. Julyssa, thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
En los códigos de Reggaeton Con La Gata.
Thank you so much, Gata. Oh, thanks, Mama.
Julyssa is everything. And wow, there's so many things to choose from here. I'm gonna break it down. First of all, shout out to Susie Exposito, our homie, the badass pioneering writer who actually created US Latin for Rollingtone. I'm sure I'll get her story later. But back to Julyssa. On behalf of every writer everywhere, I want you all to know that she's absolutely right. This industry is not easy. Ahora, hablando por mí. Speaking for myself, sure, it was exciting writing for paper and Rolling Stone or really anywhere and seeing your magic come to life. Esa otra cosa. And seeing the effect it has on culture, especially when, you know, you're that girl. I'm really stuck on what she said when she mentioned breaking into the scene. I remember me breaking into the scene. I wrote an essay that basically put the entire industry on edge. Hee. We're all better for it though. Sí o no? Claro que sí. It speaks for something larger. As I mentioned in the top of our episode, this world is unpredictable, to say the least. And breaking into journalism should be hard because it's a huge responsibility. I 1,000% support free speech, and because we believe in duality, mi gente, no, everybody shouldn't be able to mass communicate But in 2025, we see that everywhere. Get a little podcast kit on Amazon or go viral on TikTok and that's it. But what we're really speaking to isn't numbers. I want you guys to hear me. It's authority. Who gets to say what's right or wrong, curate, and then bringing music into this? Contrary to popular belief, actual entertainment journalism is really hard and it still requires responsibility. It's not just saying this song is good or this song is bad. Everything is political, mi gente. Everything. There are several things Julyssa said that I appreciate that I want you to hold on to. She said, giving flowers any and everywhere you can because the North remembers, y'all. We need to keep foot on people's necks, period. To avoid being pigeonholed, there's a lot of growth that needs to happen, like in the culture. Sometimes it's easy to get stuck on where we are now, but there's always tomorrow and more to happen and to shake things up. Julyssa, you're a gem. And the culture is lucky to have you. Rollingtone is lucky to have you. And I'm lucky to have you. Te aprecio mucho, amiga mía.
Mami, te siento lejos, dime dónde estás. Te quiero chingar, te voy a arrastrar. Déjate llevar, apaga el celular. Si estás conmigo, no.
Oh my God, so much to learn from today. Today's código with Julyssa, Y ahora otro código con Floyymenor. Vamos para allá.
Gracias por estar aquí. Principalmente tengo que decir felicidades, de verdad.
Muchas gracias por el apoyo.
Wow, qué éxito has tenido. Y en verdad es tan lindo ver la evolución de quién es Floyymenor, musicalmente, creativamente. Es algo muy lindo para ver. ¿Cómo te sientes?
Me siento bien agradecido por la vida, por lo que me ha dado, por los caminos que me ha puesto y bien así dentro de todo, muy bien me siento.
Yo soy historiadora, estoy obsesionada con la historia del reggaetón, soy panameña jamaquina. Mucho de lo que yo hago es contar la historia de la inmigración de Jamaica a Panamá, el movimiento paralelo entre Panamá, Jamaica, Puerto Rico, República Dominicana, la diáspora. Y ahora, wow, el reggaetón hoy en día está en Chile, Argentina, México.
Sí, en hartos países ha evolucionado el reggaetón. Y en Chile igual está sonando así, caleta.
Qué lindura. Háblame sobre el movimiento que está ocurriendo allá.
En Chile hay hartos cantantes así que le ponen maldito. Igual hay hartos así que hacen más reggaetón romántico, o más pop, o música electrónica. Guaracha que se escucha igual harto en Chile. Maleanteo igual hace harto. Y lo que estoy haciendo yo igual. Que es reggaetón, pero no es como cualquier tipo de reggaetón, así es como una nueva fórmula.
Tienes tu propio flow, es tan como que evidente cuando yo escucho una canción, me mandas Floyymenor, tienes esa voz, tienes ese estilo,
Sí.
es muy cool.
Sí, bueno.
Lo que me encanta del movimiento en Chile, como ocurrió algunas cosas como media tensa algunos años atrás, los chilenos agarraron el reggaetón como medio de resistencia y alzaron su voz con la música.
Sí.
Pues fue muy chula. Es algo que es parte de la historia del reggaetón. Eso fue lo que ocurrió en Panamá, en Puerto Rico, etc.
Los chilenos consumíamos mucha música de Puerto Rico, entonces ahora nosotros creamos nuestro propio movimiento así de la música y gracias a Dios a todos los chilenos que cantan le ha ido bien, pues, han sonado a hartos países y nos hemos expandido harto y para que igual el mundo sepa que Chile también hace música. Pues.
Sí. Claro que sí. Está dejando su granito de arena en lo que es la playa de reggaetón. Tienes el álbum El Comienzo. Claro, Gatoni es, wow, la canción que tiene miles, millones, soy americana, I want to say billion so bad. A billion plus streams. Yeah. Es impresionante. Pues me encantaría escuchar la historia sobre el álbum, no solo la canción.
Sí, como saben es como mi primer álbum, pues. De 7 canciones, o sea es como un EP, pero muchos igual lo llaman álbum, pero es un EP de 7 canciones, lo cual consistía con muchas canciones que no salieron y como dice titulado igual es el comienzo de mi carrera, porque yo ahí recién estaba empezando, y yo antes hacía otro estilo de música, que era como más maleanteo así con la voz más ronca y después quería que la gente supiera lo que realmente a mí me gustaba, que era el reggaetón con la voz más melódica. Y creé ese álbum así, lo cual había muchas canciones que no salieron y agregué canciones nuevas.
Me hace también pensar en tus inicios, porque como bien dijiste usted en el comienzo, es para declarar que solo estoy comenzando, right?
Sí,
pero
bueno.
antes de ahí hay una historia también. Cuéntame como ese momento cuando decidiste, sabes, voy a hacer música.
A mí te siento, love, dime dónde está. I swear he made Gata only just for me. We'll be right back with more Floyymenor after these messages. Así que no se muevan.
O sea, siempre me ha gustado la música, así como desde cabro chico, así siempre me ha gustado porque mi tío igual hace música, mi hermano mayor hace música. A mi familia le gusta caleta la música, así, de cabro chico escuchaban reggaeton, así. Entonces siempre fui bien cercano a la música hasta que un día con mis compañeros, que somos 3, nosotros creamos una frase que es lo que yo digo, ya tú sabes quiénes somos. Y empezamos a hacer música de los 15 años, pero no a grabar, tan solo como a escribir. Y después dentro de poco, hace como 2 años, saqué mi primera canción así, pero por un canal X, po. Y después mi primera canción en mi canal propio fue como hace 1 año y 9 meses aproximadamente. Pero como le digo, yo antes hacía así otro tipo de música.
Tenemos que hablar de Gata Only. ¿Cómo fue el proceso de crear la canción y cómo te sientes el hecho de que se suena ya por todos lados?
Gata Only, la historia de Gata Only igual es como especial para mí, porque es una de muchas canciones que tengo guardadas hace años. Que lo que pasó con Gata Only fue que yo la había grabado así solitario antes de que saliera la versión con J. Mi versión sola yo la tenía guardada como edition en un par de lugares. Y la dejé guardar porque, como le dije, yo estaba con otro estilo de música y yo quería que no sabía cómo llegar a la gente, pues, o no sabía si le iba a gustar mi voz así más suave. Entonces la dejé guardar y a lo que en diciembre del año 2023 saqué la versión de Gata Only solitaria y ya como 2 meses así afuera, a lo cual me llama uno de los equipos de MJ y me dice que se quería montar. Y igual lo vi como una oportunidad así, porque en ese momento igual el MJ estaba bien pegado así con Una Noche en Medellín con Karol G. Entonces yo me arriesgué a bajar mi canción y montarlo a él y gracias a Dios se dio bien y salió en todo el mundo.
Felicidades. Y no solo tienes Gata Only, porque también, wow, el remix. Le gustaron tanto que se montaron, ¿no?
Sí,
pues,
sí.
¿cuál es esa historia? Porque, nada de pequeña, es algo grande, ¿no? Que
sí,
Anita, Ozuna, they were like, we love this, le encantaron.
Sí, son cantantes que en la trayectoria de la música son así, que tienen muchos años y son leyendas pues, de la música. O sea, Ozuna, porque Anita no sé hace cuánto empezó realmente.
Años, es pionera en Brasil.
Sí.
Ajá.
Sí, pero yo no la conocía a ella.
Ok.
Conocía a Ozuna, así como los de Puerto Rico. Y se montó al igual que Peligrosa, que igual estuvo en el como top 15 global, entró así. Para que el igual llegó como al top 59 parece de top global. Entonces todo mi álbum no es tan solo Gata Only porque está Peligrosa, para que están arriba de los 200 millones en Spotify y eso.
Qué bien, qué bien. Qué emoción. Me encantaría saber, porque ahora está en el mainstream, todo el mundo sabe quién eres usted, ¿sabe? Todo el mundo cantando tu canción. ¿Hay algún aspecto de ya ser superestrella que te ha sorprendido, ahora que estás en este como nivel?
Sí, mucho. Yo creo que me ha sorprendido, es que yo igual soy bien creyente en Dios. Entonces yo antes de empezar mi carrera siempre le pedí que yo fuera el primer cantante chileno en ganar un Billboard, porque antes un cantante chileno nunca se había ganado un premio Billboard. Y yo fui el primero y eso fue como lo que me impactó así en mi carrera.
Y para también liderar y abrir esa puerta para los que vienen detrás de ti.
Exacto, pues hay harto así adolescentes en Chile que hacen música, que les gustaría, igual es bueno porque igual en Chile, en las poblaciones donde más se escucha la música así de Chile así, entonces que los cabros chicos que quieran salir así de los barrios para hacer música está bien, pues, y aparte tienen que darle porque sí se puede, pues. Igual es creer en uno, porque si no creí en ti no se puede lograr las cosas, po. Más tienes que creer en ti y dejar de lado así como muchas cosas, pues. Es ponerle atención a tus proyectos y no envidiar, más que nada, como no envidiar y no ser egoísta, pues, con las personas y ponerle todas tus metas a Dios. Yo siempre puse todas mis metas delante de Dios y siempre creí en mí.
Y pensando, porque usted es fan del reggaetón, claro, han mencionado maleanteo varias veces. ¿Cuáles artistas ha escuchado durante su crianza? ¿Cuáles canciones, cuáles artistas, cuáles, you know?
Antes mi hermano mayor me ponía todo lo que era Anuel, así las canciones antiguas de Anuel.
Ok.
Ozuna igual, harto. Daddy Yankee, mi mamá escuchó a Daddy Yankee harto. Esos son como los principales, así, los de que yo me acuerdo.
Yo también me encanta el maleanteo. Durante mi crianza yo estaba obsesionada con Hector el Father, sí. Con Ñengo, con esa época de los Real G, ese movimiento. Y ahora con la nueva escena de trap es muy impresionante y ver cómo el movimiento se está desarrollando es algo muy lindo, pues. Y por lo último, y para cerrar, estoy curiosa en saber qué aprecias sobre la cultura en general y qué deseas ver.
Me gustaría que los cantantes no se envidiaran entre ellos. Me gustaría que se unieran así, que dejaran el ego y que hicieran música nueva.
¿Sabes? Es algo común que yo he escuchado durante esta entrevista, que hay como un deseo que yo estoy escuchando de ti, por ejemplo, de Full Harmony, que estaba aquí ayer, hasta Nesty también ha decidido lo mismo, ajá, que desean ver como más colaboraciones.
O sea, sí, porque al fin y al cabo lo miran como una guerra, así como no cacho, pero al menos yo hago pura música.
Bueno, muchas gracias por estar aquí en Reggaeton Con La Gata. Mi gente, eso es todo el tiempo que tenemos hoy aquí en Reggaeton Con La Gata. Hasta la próxima. Chao.
Ok. Floyymenor es interesante y ese talento no se puede negar. That's the focus here. I love his tracks, Gata only, of course, and my love. His growing comprehension del movimiento, and I'm curious to see what he does next. Today we spoke with Julyssa, and then we spoke with Floyymenor, and now I'm gonna speak with one of you. Ustedes saben lo que hay, estamos en Rapidito. So excited. Let's get into it.
Yes, up, gente linda. I'm Gata, and I'm here with
David.
Hi, David. Where are you from?
Minnesota.
Minnesota, okay. You're escaping from the snow. I hear that. Thank you for being here. Are you ready to answer some questions on reggaeton?
Yes.
Oh my God, let's get into it. So, who are you listening to?
His name is he Raul?
Yes, exactly. Period. Oh my God, he just released a fire album.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about Raul that pulled you in?
I just love his voice, and like I feel like he's like the Chris Brown of Latin like music. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Any song in particular?
It's one song with a Nigerian artist, Sante or
Santa. Okay.
Yeah, I really like the song. I just love like the beat. I love the culture with it, even because I'm from Nigeria. So
period.
Yeah, so the artist, Ira Star, I just love the whole collab.
Yeah, I just did my 23andMe. I am 30% Nigerian. I'm about to put the flag in the bio. So, hi, cousin. Oh my God. Okay, one last question. Do you like reggaeton?
Yes, I love reggaeton music. I feel like me being African too, I just feel like there's a connection, like the same beat, the same like everything, you know? So I just love the culture too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's all about diaspora and it going from the motherland over here to the Caribbean. Thank you so much, David.
You guys know what time it is. It's time for Las Flores. Reggaeton Con La Gata is an iHeartMedia production, executive produced by Nuria Annette from Shake It Easy Media. Love you, Nuria. Our producer is Grace Gonzalez. Te quiero mucho, Grace. Our engineer, Javi Vibes. De lo mío. Production assistants, Naomi Acevedo and Kayla Eccleston. Don't know what I'd do without you. And the show is edited by Sebastian Payan, El Duro. Another shout out to Cleveland and Miami Beach. Soy Gata. See you next week on the iHeartRadio app.